Chris Scalza here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going to discuss Gretel and Hansel, the modern, maybe not quite A24 art house horror film that is a retelling of the Grimm fairy tale Hansel and Gretel. Also going to spend a few minutes talking about the mercifully short Luz, which is a little German horror film that is interesting, if I don't quite understand it. And then Matt and I are going to discuss our 2020 Oscar picks. The big show is this weekend, Matt. I swore I'd never watch it again, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll just monitor Twitter to see who ends up winning, and that'd be about the extent of it. We'll fill you in what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, that is February 11th, featuring our streaming and straight-to-DVD picks of the week as well. All right, let's start everything off with a clip from Gretel and Hansel.
Stay where I can see you.
They have a slide.
Yet I don't see any children.
It also smells of bacon, you know.
So I realized I said Gretel and Hansel, the 90s pop trio, and that is not actually that wild a reinterpretation. But it is a kind of souped-up, tweaked version of Hansel and Gretel. Matt, it's a week of confusing horror films. Or at least films that kind of mess with your head a little bit, right? So was this a welcome kind of mythic, gothic update of Hansel and Gretel? And did you enjoy it, or is it A24 light, or was it just a complete misfire?
So can I tell you, this is completely unreasonable, but I have this weird pet peeve about period dramas where some people in it have accents and some of the actors don't. So this absolutely drove me crazy through the from the get-go, where the principal had an American accent, but everybody else had something vaguely British. But anyway... Yeah, I would have to say that this is art house. Yeah, I think it would be art house light. The film itself is kind of boring. Nothing really happens in it, to be quite honest with you. That's that all exciting. I was terminally bored watching this thing. Most of the images, I think, were very kind of film schooly to me. I wasn't into it at all. I wasn't buying what they were selling.
That's disappointing to me, because though I don't think maybe it's not as successful as Oz Perkins, that's the director, as his film that we saw previously, which is The Black Coat's Daughter, which is a schoolgirl, horror film. Right, they're away from at school, and everybody's gone for the holidays, and something horrible is happening. He's also got another film on Netflix, along with Black Coat's Daughter, that I haven't unfortunately had a chance to see yet either, and that is I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which is supposed to be quite good as well. And I kind of enjoyed this, Matt. I think it tweaks the classic Grimm fairy tale, in this kind of modern, updated version of it. I thought it was quite good. I think it has interesting and good this kind of gothic, I enjoyed the production design of it. I think it's got a lot of visuals. Maybe not as many scares as you'd like. I think that Perkins may be at times too focused on establishing mood and atmosphere and less so on the scares, but I think he's too concerned with that, right? So it's to the film's detriment. And it may not always kind of work, like the bonnet-wearing figures that keep popping up in the woods, right? They're not, unfortunately, that intimidating to me. But I found our witch to be quite effective. I enjoyed the empowerment angle for Gretel as she's traversing this land. So she gets kicked out of her home, her and her little brother. because father's gone and the mother has some issues. Clearly, she has some stability issues. I think we're in the middle of a plague. There's something happening when people are getting sick and dying, and there's also a shortage of food and a bunch of other stuff. And she has to fend for herself. She's looking for work. She goes to one place, and the lord of the manor asks her if she's still intact. Right? I mean, she's got to navigate these creeps, these horrible people, these mysterious beings in the woods as they go deeper and deeper into the forest. There was, I think, a lot here that I enjoyed. It doesn't come together as well as I'd like, but for me, there are enough moments in this that kept me entertained, and I appreciated what Perkins was doing here. I didn't hate it. I thought it was an interesting A24 light art house horror film, but with striking visuals, a really interesting score. And I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I guess I just wasn't on board with I agree with the statement of it's all mood. I mean, it's really, he's trying to go for setting something up to kind of evoke, this kind of sense of discomfort. I hesitate to say dread because I don't ever think it really gets to that level. It just kind of works to make you feel uneasy, but it's so disjointed. It's just the narrative through line for it just doesn't really work. And I think he's relying on the fact that it's a story that everybody knows, and he's so focused on trying to kind of subvert that and turn it on its head that he kind of loses sight of some of the most basic fundamentals of what you need to do to make a compelling film.
Fair enough. Okay. I don't know. For me, there was enough there. I enjoyed it. I think it's worth seeking out. I don't know if you need to rush out to the theater to see it, perhaps. Maybe you can wait for this one to hit Netflix as well. But there's just enough creepiness there, and I think it's an interesting updating of that story. Some interesting visuals. And, man, we've been on a streak with, like, the witches and the weird kind of kooky horror. So I'm actually going to give Gretel and Hansel a B-.
Are you? Okay. Mm-hmm. I gave it a C.
A gentleman's C?
A gentleman's C. Because I'm nothing if not a gentleman.
That's what the kids say. No, I shouldn't put it that way. That's what the ladies say.
Yeah, seriously. You better take that back right now.
I retract that. So, if you had a chance to see Gretel and Hansel, not a bad, it hasn't been a bad winter horror affair so far. We both enjoyed Underwater, right? And, it's been okay so far. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's spend a couple minutes and talk about what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, February 11th. One of them, as you're about to hear in this clip, is just pure classic dadtainment. This will run on TNT for decades. Let's hear a clip.
In the last 3 years, you and your marketing team have presided over the worst sales slump in U.S. history. Why exactly should Mr. Ford listen to you?
Because we've been thinking wrong. Ferrari. Now, they've won 4 out of the last 5 Le Mans. We need to think like Ferrari.
Ferrari makes fewer cars in a year than we make in a day. We spend more on toilet paper than they do on their entire output. You want us to think like them.
Enzo Ferrari will go down in history as the greatest car manufacturer of all time. Why? Is it because he built the most cars? It's because of what his cars mean. Victory.
That's right. And it's nice to see Barenthal in a film where he doesn't get killed like in the first 20 minutes or so.
If you don't see me again, I'm dead.
So that, of course, is Ford versus Ferrari. Coming out with a steelbook from Best Buy, a digibook from Target, some featurettes on the making of the film, and an iTunes exclusive extra where Matt and Christian, a conversation between the two actors about the making of the film. I don't know if I go back and forth on buying this one. Maybe if it's like it gets to that $5 iTunes option, maybe I'll pull the trigger or something, because it is entertaining. I think it's going to be one of those when you come across it on TNT, like I said, you'll probably end up watching it.
Yeah, but I mean, this is like the Shawshank Redemption. You'll never need to buy it because on any given Sunday you'll be able to find it at like 2:00 in the afternoon.
That's true. A film that we absolutely have to catch up with. Takashi Miike's First Love is getting its Blu-ray release. The film is from the prolific auteur and is most fun and anarchic. Chick? How do you say that? Anarchic?
Antarctic?
No, just no. It's not gonna. Yeah, it's him at his most fun and Antarctic. No, anarchic.
Oh, anarchic?
Sure,
Like
that's what it looks
anarchy?
like. I guess so.
Yeah, okay.
That works.
Well, that should just go to show what you were saying. I mean, it was very confusing to the kids.
It's been a week
We're gonna
of
get letters
confusion for me. Yeah. A noir-tinged Yakuza film blending genres and the story of a young boxer and a call girl who fall passionately in love while getting innocently caught up in a drug smuggling scheme over the course of one night in Tokyo. We've been a big fan of Miike's work for a while now, and I've been looking forward to First Love, so we're going to have to add it into the hopper there, Matt. Shout is releasing Greener Grass. A suburban soccer mom finds moms, plural. I don't have a problem. I have problems. Plural. What's that from?
I don't know.
4 Rooms. Suburban soccer moms find themselves constantly competing against each other in their personal lives as their kids settle their differences on the field. Includes Greener Grass, the original short film, some deleted scenes, and more. Ron Perlman stars in The Great War. During the last days of the Great War, a group of U.S. soldiers are sent behind enemy lines to rescue a lost platoon. Speaking of Ron Perlman, he's also in Hell on the Border. This epic, action-packed Western tells the incredible story of Bass Reeves, played by David Gassi, the first black marshal in the Wild West. Frank Grillo also shows up in that one. The Wave, starring Justin Long and Donald Faison, is being released. This is a man on the verge of promotion, takes a mysterious, hallucinogenic, I can say that word, drug that begins to tear down his reality and expose his life for what it really is. The DC streaming series Swamp Thing is getting its Blu-ray release. I think I'll pick this up because I've heard it's actually quite good. Unfortunately, It just got the 1 season, though I think it's going to be included on that HBO Plus, whatever that big HBO service is, which is going to include all Warner Brothers archive, and I think it includes all the DC stuff. And I'm a DirecTV Now or AT&T Now guy, and I got HBO free for life as long as I keep it. So I think I get it for free, which I really hope is going to happen. I think that's supposed to happen this summer. New to Blu-ray, some people are wondering why this is being released. I think it's a great idea and need to jump all over it. Roma is coming out on Criterion with a 4K digital master supervised by Cuarón with a Dolby Atmos soundtrack, a new documentary on the making of the film, some interviews with cast and crew, like 2 or 3 documentaries. So the reason why I say you want to get this is because Roma, which is a fantastic film, should have won Best Picture last year, is streaming on Netflix. And something could happen at any time, and Netflix could pull it. And this way, you have your own hard copy. They actually have a bunch of stuff. They're putting out The Irishman, Marriage Story, and something else. There's 2 other films, I think, are coming out on Criterion sets, too. So I'm very excited to pick those up. I'll definitely be getting The Irishman. Criterion is also giving us Paris is Burning, a new 2K restoration of the film, a chronicle of New York's drag scene in the 1980s, focusing on balls, voguing, and the ambitions and dreams of those who gave the era its warmth and vitality. New conversations with the director Jenny Livingston, ball committee member Sol Pendavis, Freddie Pendavis, and filmmaker Thomas Allen Harris. An hour of never-before-seen outtakes, a ported-over commentary from 2005, and more. Scream Factory is releasing a super special edition of My Bloody Valentine, the original 1981 version. I recently watched this on Shudder. I don't think I'd ever seen the whole thing from start to finish. It's alright. Includes a brand new 4K restoration from the original camera negative of the theatrical version. There are like 6 or 7 new interviews included on this thing, and a brand new 4K restoration of the uncut version as well is included on disc 2. Also features a brand new audio commentary by the director George Milaka. There's a 35th anniversary reunion panel at the Bay of Blood convention that was here in Florida from a few years ago. There's just a bunch of stuff. So if you're a My Bloody Valentine fan, it looks like Shout Factory in there, or their Scream offshoot has something special for you. Warner Archive is releasing A Little Romance, and Guys and Dolls. Mill Creek, and as part of their VHS cover releases, are putting out Hudson Hawk, a big classic film for me. I was such a Bruce Willis fan back in the day. I used to love Hudson Hawk. I haven't watched it in probably 15, 20 years. I'm sure it's just terrible. No Mercy, starring Richard Gere and Kim Basinger, Vibes, and When a Stranger Calls. Kino Lorber is releasing a brand new 4K remaster of Transylvania 65000. They're also putting out Heart Beeps with a brand new audio commentary. Legal Eagles and The Sting 2, which features a new audio commentary by the director Jeremy Kagan. MVD is releasing Mind Games. Rita and Dana Lund's marriage is in crisis, Matt. Rita's frustrated from being just a housewife. To save their marriage, they set out for a camping trip through California with their son. At a camping site, they meet hitchhiker Eric, who befriends the son. And against Rita's will, Dana takes him with them, not knowing he's a brutal psychopath who will force their son to participate in nightly trips of vandalism. Includes a high new definition presentation of the film and 2 brand new making of featurettes as well. Scorpion releasing is putting out The Killing Time, starring Kiefer Sutherland, where he plays a young psychopath who murders a man en route to his idyllic California community, where the victim was slated to become the new deputy sheriff. Also features Beau Bridges. Mondo Macabro is releasing The Beast and the Magic Sword, featuring a brand new 4K restoration from the original camera negative. The film The Devil is being released. This is a Taiwanese horror film. A hideously ugly witch casts spells on her victims and turns their insides into snakes and worms. Gross. There's a brand new 4K restoration of that one. Arrow is releasing its standard edition release of RoboCop. This does not include the lobby cards, the poster, any of that fun stuff, the book, and no, it does not include the theatrical and TV versions either, just the unrated director's cut. Your straight-to-DVD pick of the week is Hanukkah. Obadiah Lazarus is the son of Judah Lazarus, the original Hanukkah killer. In 1983, Judah terrorized New York for 7 nights and was preparing to sacrifice his 8-year-old son Obadiah on the 8th night. Judah was convinced it was God's will, like Abraham and Isaac, to sacrifice his son to God. Luckily for Obadiah, police tracked Judah down and stopped the sacrifice, but Judah was gunned down in the process. Warped by hatred, with no guidance, Obadiah Lazarus becomes a religious extremist, intolerant of non-Jews, bad Jews, and those who perceives to be enemies of the Jewish faith. He's about to unleash 8 nights of horror. A group of Jewish teens are getting ready to party for the holidays, but are in for a festival of frights. With the help of a wise rabbi, they deduce that the murder victims have violated Judaic law, and that their only chance at survival is to embrace their faith. Matt, what should we be streaming this week?
To keep up with the horror theme, I got up a small little indie film called The Endless. It's available on Netflix. It's about 2 brothers who escaped a cult when they were young as adults, who were just scraping by. They're not doing too well. One of them gets a message from the cult in the form of a video, and he convinces his brother to go back to where they grew up. It's a strange kind of, I don't want to give away too much, but it is kind of a Lovecraftian type of horror film. Not really scares so much as it's really just kind of unsettling. Made by the guys who also directed Resolution, which I have not seen, which I hear is quite good, and Spring, which I have seen as of today, and that is even better than this one. So The Endless, available on Netflix. You should check it out.
You've been waiting to see Spring for quite a while now, so we'll have to add it to the list so we can talk about it proper for the show. I'm assuming you've watched One Cut of the Dead then.
Yeah, I totally watched One Cut of the Dead.
Son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
I don't know what I'm going to do with you. You're going to love it. It's on Shudder.
I have no doubt.
And we'll get there, folks. We'll get there. Okay, Matt, let's spend a few minutes and talk about Lose. Luz? Lose. Less. Lose. Lose.
Ja, was das so übersetzt, ja.
Lose.
Du musst wissen, meine Freundin hat eine ganz besondere Begabung. Das Talent für mich.
sorglos. Estamos por ti.
So Matt Luz is a young woman. She is a cab driver, and she gets in an accident and shows up at a police station. She's clearly in shock. While she is speaking to the police, there's also a side thing happening where there is something coming for her, and it is assaulting people, taking on forms, or taking their bodies over. It's basically a kind of demonic possession type of movie, right? This entity desperately wants to be reunited with this woman who she'd previously had contact with. So, Matt, this is a German film that focuses... It's well, one thing I think we were both excited about is the fact that it was a scant 70 minutes long. So, what are your thoughts on Luz? Is it a nice, tight little horror film, or is it just a little too ambiguous for its own good?
Well, for me, it's a little too unfocused, I think. It's a weird film, man. There is a certain degree of like art to this, but it's art in an inaccessible way. And I think it's going to turn a lot of people off. Now, I can be kind of into those kind of films. I'm a big fan of Under the Skin, The Neon Demon. I'm not opposed to challenging films, but this is like a micro budget thing that I'm not sure has a full grasp of what it's trying to accomplish. And I think there are, because of the budget and the limitations they have, he makes some sacrifices, the filmmaker makes some sacrifices to get something up on the screen, and it doesn't always work for me.
Well, I felt it was basically a confounding head trip kind of possession thriller, right? You're right, there's not a lot of money spent on this thing. It was built on a shoestring budget on 16 millimeter, and it is deliberately confusing, right? It feels so tightly orchestrated and directed. Since you're working with such a small amount of money, right? You got to have a very kind of run a very tight ship. And I think he effectively uses the resources that he has, his set design, his set pieces. I think that they make them suitably creepy, and he does a lot with very, very little. You can really see the craft here, but it almost felt oppressive to me at times. I feel like I had to, even though it's only 70 minutes, I had to rewind it a couple times to kind of feel like, wait, what's happening? I don't quite, okay. But one thing I will say is that I did find it riveting. I could not take my eyes off the screen, but I'm trying to calculate and figure out what's happening all the time and just trusting that inevitably at the end, everything will kind of come together. And it kind of does. And maybe what doesn't is okay. I like that it's kind of deliberately vague. And I really appreciate what you said too about the Under the Skin. It definitely has strong vibes of that film, Glazer's film, including Mika Levy's score. It really seemed to borrow heavily from her, which is one of my favorite scores of the past 10 years. It's a distant cousin of that one for sure. But with all the stuff, the grain, right, and the scratches in the film, right, it almost feels like you're watching something from the 80s or 90s. And maybe I didn't understand or grasp everything, but I was transfixed for the entire 70 minutes, or with my backtracks, maybe 85.
Yeah, it's got it's got some creepy images to it, and it is very effective in parts. It really just depends on if you're going to enjoy this thing based on your tolerance of the just strange and the kind of non-explained, non-sequitur type of storytelling that is there. I think this is perfectly encapsulated, I think, by the review by the Chicago Tribune, which is the first review on Rotten Tomatoes. There's a byline that says, "This film is very good at what it does, whatever it is doing." So that, I think, summarizes it perfectly.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty apt description. So what are you going to give Luz? They call her Luz, right?
Luz, yeah. They say Luz in the film, so I that's what I think it is.
Okay.
Stop being such an American, Chris. A little
sorry.
Culture. I think it's I guess I liked it slightly better than Gretel and Hansel, so C+.
Fair enough. I'm going to give it a B- myself. It's definitely worth checking out. It's an unusual kind of Shane Carruth on a shoestring budget type of a film. And there's enough there for you to check out. It's just very offbeat and weird and unsettling and worth your time. You can see Loose right now on Shudder, and also I believe you can rent it from most of your outlets as well. If you've seen it, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's go ahead then and jump into our Oscar predictions. We're going to tell you who's going to win and who should win right after this.
Good to see you, Ethan. You're looking great. Thank you very much. You're looking good yourself. Can't complain.
Hey, Murray. Thanks so much for Hey, Murray. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a lifelong dream of mine.
Before you're not nervous. I'm nervous right now. I am nervous.
Hey, Murray. I've been on... I'm sorry, what's that? That's very funny, Murray. You know, I'm also a comedian. Would you like to hear a joke? Yeah? All of you? Okay.
So I think that is, of course, Joaquin, as I called him for 10 plus years. Phoenix there as Arthur Fleck in The Joker. I'm still dealing with my feelings, Matt, with The Joker leading the list of nominations. It is what it is. So we're going to run down now the 2020 Oscar ballot. We're going to share with you the big categories, right? Matt and I are going to alternate for your actor, actresses, main, supporting, direction, best picture. And then we will scan in our ballots there and post them in the show on the website itself at thefirstrun.com, applying to this particular show. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about some of the other categories. But all right, Matt, I'm going to start everything off with actress in a supporting role. Your nominees are Kathy Bates and Richard Jewell, Laura Dern in Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit, Florence Pugh in Little Women, and Margot Robbie in Bombshell. Now, who's going to win? I think it's going to be Laura Dern in Marriage Story. I think this is one of the easier picks. Who I think should win? Well, J-Lo. But she's not even nominated for her performance in Hustlers, which is one of the bigger snubs of this 2020 Oscars. But out of the remaining categories, I would still even maybe I would choose Florence Pugh in Little Women over Laura Dern's performance in Marriage Story. But J-Lo really is the one who should be in this category and winning. Who do you think?
So I think Laura Dern is going to win. Now, I didn't see Florence Pugh or Margot Robbie in their respective films, Little Women or Bombshell, so I can't comment on those performances. I think Laura Dern should win. I enjoyed her performance of the ones I saw here between Kathy Bates and ScarJo.
Yeah, the Bombshell, I watched that. It's not terribly good. And I don't think there's anything particularly revelatory about her performance in that thing at all. It's very it really tries to be kind of like The Social Network with the Fox News harassment scandal, and it's not good. So who are our actors in a supporting role, Matt?
All right, so for actor in a supporting role, we have Tom Hanks in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins, The Two Popes, Al Pacino, The Irishman, Joe Pesci, The Irishman, and Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think Brad Pitt is going to win, especially since he won the SAG Award. And I also would be okay. I think I would want Brad Pitt to win. I mean, Joe Pesci's really close in The Irishman, but I think ultimately I would go with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I think Brad is who will win. I think Joe Pesci should. I think it's clearly his best performance, as we stated during an Irishman discussion. And listen, Brad Pitt's great in Hollywood, but I just think Pesci's just a little bit better. So I'm a little disappointed in that one, but I still think you're right that Brad's going to win. So your actresses in a leading role, you have Cynthia Erivo in Harriet, Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan in Little Women. You know, actually I pronounced her Sirius. I didn't know how to say Saoirse for a very long time either to go ahead with Joaquin. Charlize Theron in Bombshell, and then Renee Zellweger in Judy. I think Zellweger's going to pull this one out kind of a la... now, of course, I'm blanking on it because it just popped in my head like, oh, that'd be a really good pull to say. And now I can't remember it at all.
It's okay. Vamp.
So Renee Zellweger, I think, is going to win for Judy. Not a lot of people saw this film, but it's supposed to be one of the better performances in kind of in a subpar film. I think Scarlett Johansson should win for Marriage Story. That is a very real, raw, and authentic performance by her in that film. Though I would kind of want to lean towards another, I think, snub, Lupita Nyong'o in Jordan Peele's Us. The way that she's able to balance those two characters in that film is, I just thought it was a fantastic and a much more taxing performance and a much more impressive role. So that's what you got going, Matt. You got Judy for the win, ScarJo, who should win, but really maybe even Lupita, who was not nominated. What are your thoughts?
All right, so of these, I've only seen one of them. So I've seen ScarJo in Marriage Story, which she was great. So I think she should win. But I think you're right. I don't think the Academy can resist a biopic, especially a biopic about Hollywood royalty. So I'm going to go with Renee Zellweger in Judy to win. As far as your Lupita Nyong'o selection, I wasn't as impressed by her performance when she was playing the evil half of her twin. I found the performance kind of grating, so I don't think I would put that in the same category as these ladies here.
People are wrong. I'm not going to hold it against you. So who are actors in a lead role?
All right, so for actor in a leading role, we have Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix, or Joaquin Phoenix, as the correct pronunciation is, for Joker, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. If any category has a lock, I'm pretty sure, I feel like it's going to be Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. That seems to have all the momentum. I believe he won the SAG. I mean, his entire performance in this just seems to be unstoppable as far as this goes. So if Joker's going to win an Oscar, it's going to be for this one. Personally, I feel like Adam Driver for Marriage Story should win. His performance was excellent. I mean, it's been a great year for Adam Driver, so it'd be nice to show him some love, but I don't think it's going to happen this time.
Yeah, I think you're right about Joker. I think Joaquin is going to win. I still desperately want to see Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory. I'm actually going to make an effort to watch it this weekend prior to the Academy Awards. Now, I did say I was going to boycott it this year, so I may just kind of follow the results, I think, on Twitter. That might be the extent of it. But I definitely want to check in Pain and Glory ahead of time. But again, who should win? I could go with Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems, De Niro in The Irishman, or even Eddie Murphy in My Name is Dolomite. Or Dolomite is My Name. So, all of those in front of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I would even take Adam Driver. I'd take Leo. I don't know about The Two Popes. I saw that. It's okay. There's nothing really, that's on Netflix. It's fine. So Joaquin's going to win, but for me, if I had to choose one, I would probably go Adam Sandler on Uncut Gems, which wasn't even nominated because the Oscars are a joke. And yet, you participate in society. All right. So then we're going to talk about the achievement in directing, Matt. Your options are The Irishman, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. So who's going to win? It's going to be 1917. I think Sam Mendes' one-trick shot pony thing is going to put him over the edge for the Academy. Who should win? Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, I think clearly is who your winner should be in that category. What are your thoughts?
Exactly the same. I think Sam Mendes is going to win for 1917. I think the kind of technical trickery that he employs, coupled with the fact that it's a sweeping war film, is pretty much going to guarantee he's going to bring home the prize. But I think Bong Joon-ho should definitely win for the best film of the year, Parasite.
Which brings us to the best picture of 2019. The nominees, Matthew, are?
We have Ford v. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. So I think 1917 is going to win. Again, for all the reasons I just stated, the sweeping war story epic is just something that is going to win. Maybe they're going to try and correct their Saving Private Ryan mistake many years too late. But what should win is Parasite. I just think that it's next to impossible, since it's pretty much a lock for winning Best Foreign Language Film, and I don't see the Academy giving that film 2 Oscars overall.
I agree entirely. I think the international feature film, previously known as foreign language film, Parasite gets cut out at its knees. It's taken down because it's going to win that one, unfortunately. So it's going to be 1917. I agree with you entirely. It makes me wonder, though, Matt. I haven't really thought about this before. So you have, 9 options in Best Picture? You can go up to 10.
Right.
But you only have 5 for director. So can you just eliminate those 4 who didn't make the director cut?
Yeah, that seems to be a good way. It's kind of like your participation prize. Like, here, you have absolutely 0 chance, but we thought you did pretty good. Good job, guys.
I never really thought about it before. You can just basically we'd have to see, since they introduced 10 as an option, how many of those were Best Picture that there were no director. They didn't have a director nomination at the very least.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think that's it, folks. Those are your locks. Take them to the bank. If you do want a 100% guaranteed lock, I am going to tell you to select Bombshell for makeup and hairstyling. I think out of all of these, that is the absolute money on the table lock. And then there's always the matter of sound mixing versus sound editing, which drives me crazy when people don't understand the differences between those. Sound editing is the selection of the sounds what we're going to input in, then we put them in the film, and then mixing is when we kind of bring everything together. So all of the sound effects and the music and the line deliveries all kind of seamlessly come put together. That's the difference, folks. All right? Get it straight. Look it up. Drives me crazy. There's a bunch of other categories. Matt and I, as I said, will post them on the show notes. So, Matt, get on that. Go ahead, fill out your sheet and scan it to me as soon as you can so we can have it posted for Friday morning when I have the show. Show usually hits Friday morning like at 12:05 in the morning. Right around midnight is when it shows up.
Oh, okay.
So that's that, folks. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com and give us your Oscar picks. How much did you bet? How much did you win going with me? How much did you lose going with Matt? I'd love to hear about it. Though I think, are we all the same on all of our main categories?
Yeah, we are. So really, it's going to come down to the side categories. And I'd just like to point out, Chris did not win for the first time ever last year. So
it was the year before. I thought
was it the year before?
There was I blew one year. I got what? There was like 23, and I got like 21 or something like that. It was crazy. But we'll see if I can get my crown back. It'll be good times. Next week, it's going to be Harley Quinn and the Emancipation of, or Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn and her emancipation. That thing. It's the Birds of Prey movie with Harley Quinn, doing exceptionally well on Rotten Tomatoes right now. We were also going to discuss The Lodge, but they did not get a release around here, so I think we're going to do Velocipaster, maybe?
Yeah, we are. Maybe. Well, there's some other options out there, too, I can bring up to you, so we can decide.
That'll be interesting. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. You will find us. Go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. We'll read it on air, and it'll help other people find the show. So, Matt, why don't you say we go ahead and take an extended break, and we will see you all soon.
That was the best acting I've ever seen in my whole life.